Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedar Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of December 7th to December 13th. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List, Tom Volf's Maria by Callas, and Julian Schnabel's At Eternity's Gate. And our Cedar 3 picks this week are for Best Documentaries of 2018.
We'll also be discussing some weird German art horror film. Donald Trump isn't the only thing ruining Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. How do you convince people to watch a great film without spoiling it first? And 2018 was truly the year of the documentary film. We always like to start off the show with the last scene first. So, Dave, what is the last film you've seen?
The last film I saw, Aaron, is a new, very arty German, I guess we'll call it a horror movie, mystery thriller, kind of supernatural movie. It's called Luz, L-U-Z. It's a woman's name. She's actually, I think, Spanish or something. But it is a German film. And played at the Fantasia Film Festival this last year. Got a lot of great comments and reviews about that. And it is a very unique, strange little movie, very stylized in a minimalist sort of way. And I would say that I wish I would have seen it in the theater because I think I would have enjoyed it more. I still liked it, but I think it made me excited to see that director's next movie.
Is this like a first-time director?
It's a first film, yeah. His name is Tillman Singer, and it was his first feature film. And it definitely, he's someone to pay attention to what he does next. But this film, it's interesting. I don't know that we'll end up playing it. We might for just like a single like spotlight screening either here or over at the Capitol or something. But it is definitely a cool, strange little movie if you enjoy cool, strange little movies.
Those types of movies seem to also just sort of pop up streaming at some point.
Yes.
You're like, oh, crap. I thought that maybe it was going to be in a theater or something. But
it'll be interesting to see if they do that and they change like the art to make it seem a little bit more like traditional horror-y kind of thing, which is 100% not that.
Right,
sometimes they have to
do that for marketing.
Trick people into watching it, and then they go, what is this? This is nothing what I expected. But it was very good.
That's actually going to come up a little bit later on, the whole like what gets you to watch a movie sort of thing here.
Mm-hmm.
But my last scene is not a film at all. I mean, films like that category of like there's film, there's cinema, there's movies.
I gotcha. So
film is like the high art. This is definitely just it's barely a movie.
Barely a movie.
It's Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, because it is that season and there's children in the house.
And you wanted your kids to see Donald Trump on the big screen.
It didn't quite come up ahead of time, and then it popped up, and they were both like, wait, is that? And I was like, yeah. Like, wait, is he still in this movie? Like, no, it's one scene. We're done. We're moving on. It's terrible. I don't know if I've ever watched that one because there were scenes that I remembered. Like, I remember Tim Curry as the bellhop, but like there was other stuff. I was like, I don't remember this part at all.
I had definitely saw it. I saw it back when I was in college, and I was the college film critic, and I remember reviewing it. It was.
Was it a positive?
I did not give it. I did not recommend it, as I recall. So
there's maybe 12, 14 minutes when he booby traps his uncle's refabbed or their under construction apartment, which is a total Looney Tunes skit of just like pratfalls and whatnot. The kids were rolling on the floor. Like it works because that's a cartoon scene basically. But
I've never been the biggest fan of the original Home Alone either. To me, I liked when the have you seen on YouTube someone did the supercut where they add all the blood and like make it like a terrible thing, because that's how I read that movie. Like it was to me like this violent, weird kind of thing. It's very like it's almost like like family Christmas family torture porn in some weird way. Yeah,
just without all the blood.
Yeah, it's just a strange, weird movie. Why that was a hit is beyond me. But yeah, there you go. Home Alone. Home Alone 2. Good job, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the Art House this weekend, the buzz on the movies were showing. The new movie this past week was Border, which I did see.
Yes, excellent.
Which we were talking about in the last episode where you're like, well, we'll wait to talk about it till you see it. I kind of don't want to talk about it, though.
Well, we can't talk about it on mic and ruin it for people. We can talk off mic about it.
So my question then was like, I was thinking about like, how do you sell a movie to people? Like, how do you, not sell, but like, how do you convince them to see a movie? And I mean, you've got posters, you got trailers, you've got reviews, podcasts. But like, that all involves a lot of spoiling the fun of the story, the discovery.
Right. Well, I think that's why I think they did a really good job with the trailer of the film.
Very good job, yeah.
The trailer kind of captures the tone of it.
Yes.
And it captures the enthusiastic reviews. Like there's little comments coming up like, telling you like this is a great movie, you need to see it.
Yeah.
As opposed to really
giving all the reveals away.
Giving away all the story. And I came to see it again actually here in the theater because I had only got to watch it as a screener link before and I wanted to see it in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
So I came and I took my fiance and another friend who I said, come see this. I think you'll like it. The less you know about it, the better. And he trusted me, and yes, he absolutely...
I was saying, it's the just trust me argument.
Yeah, just trust me.
You need that rapport, though. Just the random customer that comes in, they're like, oh, what's good? I'm like, you got to see Border. They don't know me from anybody else.
Yeah,
so like,
I don't know that I would just automatically recommend it to any stranger. I think I'd have to know a little bit about the person.
Right. It's not quite like the Nicolas Cage, Mandy kind of thing, where like, well, if you don't really like a little bit of blood or some violence, like, you're not going to like this movie at all. You're going to respond.
It's a film that has some great little surprises and some weirdness. And the show that I saw on Sunday night afterwards, there was a group of 4 people discussing it.
Oh, it's definitely
afterwards.
A lobby conversation kind of movie.
And they were trying to like make sure that what they thought was right. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And it isn't that complicated. I don't know why they were so confused.
It's a very simple story, well told, but it's how it's slowly revealed what's going on. Because it's not like a twist ending like Shyamalan style or anything.
Not at all.
It's just... It's a little off, and then you slowly discover what's really going on. You're like, oh.
Yeah. So it's a film that if you haven't seen it yet, please come out and see it. It probably won't be here too much longer because we've got a lot of films opening up in the next few weeks.
It's a very busy schedule, yeah.
So it'll maybe only be here for one more week.
The other one is Green Book continues to be a huge hit, and I realized this weekend that I'm jaded. And I probably already knew this.
I knew that.
And my tastes just don't run quite this way. There was a regular customer, though. He mentioned that he sees, he said he sees like 20-ish movies a year in the theater, which I was like, oh, well, that's low. But that's really not low at all.
That's not low.
That's actually pretty normal, if not maybe a little high for the average moviegoer.
The average moviegoer across the U.S. sees just under 3 movies.
Is that true?
A year. Yeah. The NATO statistics,
National Association of Theater Owners.
That's every, that's the official statistic is like 2.7 or 2.8.
Wow. Okay.
Like that. Yeah. So seeing 20 is well above the national norm.
Yes.
But moviegoers like us,
right,
who see a ton.
Right.
I saw, I think, 4 movies in the theater last week alone. So
so you're good for 2 years.
Yeah.
In that case. That's okay. So I'm jaded, and I'm also in a bubble. So okay, I figured that out. So then, from that point of view, it's one of the best movies of the year because I mean, it hits all kinds of different notes. People, I mean, I've said that walking out. There was a guy even yesterday that walked out after the screening and said that might be one of the greatest films I've ever seen.
Wow.
And I was like, that's a little hyperbolic, I think, but at the same time, like it really connects with people, and it really.
Well, that's great.
It's really working. So if you haven't seen it, the pressure's on.
Yeah.
Make it one of your 2.7 movies you see this year.
Maybe you'll be as enthusiastic as that guy.
Maybe. In the art house news, we always check into the specialty box office, and I guess we'll just continue with the running joke of Netflix and the box office because it's going to be a big story as the year finishes up here. Roma is still, we think, doing great at the box office, based on the sleuthing that internet reporters and movie critics are doing. Since so many theaters have online... or they all have online ticketing, but a lot of reserved seating. People can kind of guesstimate right before showtime, check certain websites. Oh, it's selling this many tickets. So they're getting pretty diligent and creative with their math to figure out that Roma is pretty successful.
Yes, very successful thus far.
The Favorite also is in this unique situation where it's only playing in 34 screens or 34 theaters in the country, and it hasn't even gotten to us here in Cleveland just yet, but it's already cracked the million mark, almost 2 million, which... That's every indication, plus all the awards buzz for it. The critics are loving this movie. The audiences that have seen it already are loving this movie.
I would love to talk about it, but I'll wait until
next week.
Next week when we open it on the 14th, we can talk about it.
It's one of those, too. I don't know if we've mentioned on the show before, Rotten Tomatoes is kind of the common parlance for like, oh, how's it doing? How do the critics like it? So it's at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I always forget to mention that, or really even look at, that there's an audience score on Rotten Tomatoes as well. And that kind of tells you how it's going. Like Green Book is tracking higher with audiences than critics, even though it's doing great with critics. That The Favorite is at 78%, which is very high for audiences as well, too. So it looks like it's connecting with critics, audiences, working with everybody there. And I did want to do a quick shout out to Free Solo, which is 10 weeks out in theaters now and just crossed the $10 million mark at the box office, which is phenomenal for documentaries. Just for a little context, we'll be talking about it in a little bit here, but Won't You Be My Neighbor and RBG were 2 other big hits this year. $22 million for Won't You Be My Neighbor and $14 million for RBG. It really is the year of documentaries.
Yeah, documentary blockbusters.
Conversation to be continued in just a moment. I did throw in a little note here that Netflix does report quote-unquote numbers every once in a while.
Very rarely whenever they want to boast.
But this seems unrealistic to me.
Well, this statistic
their math
that
is
you're going to say, go ahead. Tell
the Christmas Chronicles, which I haven't seen. Did you watch this yet?
I have not, but I'm going to because I love Kurt Russell.
Kids watched it, and my son, it's his new favorite Christmas Christmas movie.
Yeah,
just period. Because he called it like Outlaw Santa because he liked breaking and entering and all the shenanigans that Kurt Russell gets into. So the Christmas Chronicles was reportedly had 20 million views in the first week, which Netflix press release said it equates to a $200 million opening week at the box office.
Which is not accurate.
No way.
Yeah. But when
they want to brag, they'll brag.
That would be like if the national average for admission was a $10 movie ticket, and it's
that's
not.
True too. Yeah, it's not.
So that if they would have just looked up what the actual national average, it still would have been over $100 million. Still would have been a huge opening if it had been people actually buying tickets for it. But
it's a big if though, because you see that come across your Netflix feed and you hit play to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll give us 10 minutes or whatever. But versus driving to the theater, taking the whole family, buying individual tickets.
Right. But they are right when they said that probably more people saw this Kurt Russell movie in the first week than any other film that he ever made.
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely true.
Yeah, true.
But the way that they kind of made up their own little number for what
the 200 million thing I was like, wait, put on the brakes. What's going on here?
That's a very, very strange way to skew that. Mm-hmm. And this week, we had a couple of major critics associations come out with their best of the year list. Of course, I believe the day that this podcast is going live is when the Golden Globe nominations are being announced, but we're recording a couple days before that, so we'll talk about those next week. But right now, I want to talk about some of the films that were named by the New York Film Critics Association, which has been around since 1935, and they have named Roma, a film that we've been talking a lot about, as the best picture of the year, and Alfonso Cuarón as best director. So again, Roma is definitely at the top, should be at the top of everyone's want-to-see list. And again, I'd highly encourage you to come see it when it opens in the theater on the 14th. And then a couple of other films that played here at the Cedar Lee, like First Reformed, got best screenplay and best actor for Ethan Hawke. And we've got the film Cold War, which was last week. We talked about that a little bit as one of my favorite foreign films of the year. And that was named as their best foreign language film. Interestingly, they named that as their best foreign language film and gave Roma that. So Roma didn't get, take up two spots.
Yeah, I think we were watching the Twitter feed when they were announcing it that morning. I was like, oh, that must mean Roma's best picture because it didn't win best foreign film.
And then Bo Burnham was named his film best first feature for 8th Grade, which we played here for quite a while actually.
This summer.
It was a great little movie. And so I hope if you didn't get to see 8th Grade, definitely check that out.
They have a good track record too. One of the reasons to pay attention to the Critics Awards, one is to get great recommendations for movies you should see beyond your 2.7 movies a year in the theater. But it also kind
You're going to love that statistic.
I really do. It blows my mind that I was like, God, that's what I did on Sunday night.
Yeah.
But they've picked 31 of their Best Picture selections have gone on to win Best Picture at the Oscars. So if you're one of those Oscar fanatics who want to get in early, these are some of those groups to be paying attention to.
Yeah, it's one of those things that really helps, especially for performers. Like I had been saying, I really hope Richard E. Grant gets a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Can You Ever Forgive Me? And now he's getting some of these Critics Awards, like the best. They named him Best Supporting Actor at the New York Film Critics Association, so that helps his chances for getting an Oscar nomination now. So I'm cheering for him because I would love for Richard E. Grant.
Get some buzz going and elevate some of the smaller roles as well from throughout the year. The other awards that came out this past week was the National Board of Review. Been around a little bit longer. They've been around since 1909. Not quite in their current form, but they were kind of trying to fight some censorship early on. So they got together to kind of work on that. They named Green Book Best Film and Bradley Cooper for Best Director. So it's one of those splits where the Best Film and the Best Director don't go hand in hand. But then Viggo Mortensen picked up Best Actor. Mahershala Ali, unfortunately, was left out of the mix on this one. And then Best Actress went to Lady Gaga, which has been getting some pretty solid buzz. Some of the crossovers, though, Best Screenplay went to Paul Schrader for First Reform, so that's probably a pretty good indication. Seems like he's a lock to get a nomination there. And then Best Directorial Debut was, again, Bo Burnham with 8th Grade. And I was wondering if you think this way too. Over the years watching the Academy Awards, I was going to reference Lady Bird and Get Out from last year, where some first films that were stellar films got the screenplay nominations, if not one screenplay. It's almost like the category to reward the first time filmmaker if they're a writer director a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that it wouldn't be out of the question for Bo Burnham to possibly get an Oscar nomination. That would be awesome because I love that movie.
Going up against Paul Schrader, though, is a screenplay category, is not the best year to make your debut.
No,
though,
and it's nice to see Paul Schrader come back, because he's been in a bit of in a fairly creative lull, at least any kind of critical or commercial success.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's nice to see him come back with such a strong film.
And then in this category, they did Best Documentary went to RBG from the National Board of Review, and Cold War Best Foreign Language Film. So it looks like depending on how Roma and Cold War end up getting in at the Academy, there might be an interesting showdown in the Best Foreign Film category there. We'll be right back with the new films opening this week at the theater. A couple of special events to let you know about for this coming week. The Fathom Events and G-Kids present Mirai. We are showing it Saturday, December 8th at 12:55 p.m. in the dubbed version.
And the Fathom and TCM series of the Turner Classic Movies on the big screen concludes this year with White Christmas on Sunday, December 9th and 12th at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Fathom Events and the Jim Henson Company are presenting the Jim Henson Holiday Special, which features Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas and The Bells of Fraggle Rock, Monday, December 10th at 7 p.m.
And finally, we've got Fathom Events and G-Kids presenting the new documentary, Never Ending Man, Hayao Miyazaki. This is playing on Thursday, December 13th at 7:30. So this week we are going to be opening for a one-week-only special engagement for its 25th anniversary. We're bringing back Schindler's List, of course, directed by Steven Spielberg. This is his classic World War II film that is a beautiful black and white film that won 7 Oscars, including director, picture, screenplay, cinematography, editing. And if you've never seen Schindler's List, obviously it's a film that you should come and see on the big screen and have that experience. And if it's a film that you think that you're personally up for revisiting, there's no better way to revisit it than seeing it in the theater, in the sort of quiet isolation of it, of that. When you see that movie in the theater, you can hear a pin drop as you're watching it, because it's a very reverential sort of experience for people in the theater.
This one too, I remember watching this the first time when it came out. It felt like a cultural obligation, because everybody that came out, all the critics were just like, this is the movie. Like it's weird to be sitting in a theater watching a movie thinking this is a classic. Like it was brand new at the time, but I remember thinking this is a classic film. Like there's just nothing you want to change about it. There's nothing. I mean, it's a long movie, but it's as long as it needs to be for the story it's telling, and you can't change anything in that movie without wrecking what Spielberg's doing as building that movie as a whole. We're also opening a new documentary, Maria by Callas, directed by Tom Volf, who is a first-time filmmaker. This is an intimate look at the life and work of Greek-American opera singer Maria Callas, as told in her own words.
There are 2 people in me. I would like to be Maria, but there is the Callas that I have to live up to.
Who has to win, Maria or Callas?
What brings you out to the line?
Maria Callas, she's the greatest. Only for her would I do this.
To miss her would be really a crime. This woman is undoubtedly the greatest singer of this century. As a technician, she's magnificent. As an actress, she is magnetic.
Many people are under the impression that you're Italian.
Not only was I born in New York, but I'm rather proud of that, too.
Leonard Bernstein calls Madame Callas pure electricity.
I'm not answering any interview. Now stop it. When you push me around, I don't like it.
Glory goes to people's heads, not my head. Glory terrifies me. I would have preferred to have a happy family and have children. I would have given up this career with pleasure. But destiny is destiny, and there's no way out.
So this movie seems to be tailor-made for opera fans. This is one of those, I'm only aware of opera insofar as we show the Met here, and I read the titles that we're showing, and I've seen a couple of them, and I'm intrigued by it, but I don't really have like that itch to like jump into a whole bunch of opera. Tom Volf, the director here, was, I guess, equally kind of an opera novice, and he's walking home in New York City this one night, and he heard I think it was at the Met, actually. He just heard the music. He's like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And he ended up going in doing like this deep dive on YouTube, looking up like other Oscar opera performers. And he ran across Maria Callas and was just like completely entranced by her voice and her presence and her singing. And that's when he started this project, which ends up being a deep dive into the memorabilia, the recordings, the home movies of her. So this movie is one of those, if you want to, go deep into her biography, this is all her in her own words, as the title suggests, kind of in the way we had a movie a couple years ago, Listen to Me, Marlon, from 2015, where it was all Marlon Brando in his own words, kind of telling his own story. So it's not what some filmmaker thinks about somebody or a scholar thinks. It's literally her in her own words talking about her presence when she was on stage versus off stage, and the kind of the two personas she ended up developing through the years. So all the Met fans out there that are here for all the Met shows, this seems tailor-made for all of you.
And we're also going to be opening At Eternity's Gate by Julian Schnabel. This is a look at the life and final years of painter Vincent van Gogh, or Vincent van Gogh, which is,
if you want to be official
if you
about
want
it,
to be official, which is starring Willem Dafoe.
Tell me, why do you say you're a painter?
Because I love painting. I have to paint. I've always been a painter, that I know.
A born painter?
Yes.
How do you know?
Because I can't do anything else, and believe me, I've tried. I think of myself as an exile.
You're Vincent?
Yes.
Sales brother. I'm Paul Gauguin. We have to start a revolution, do you understand? We have to create a new vision, a new way of painting.
I spent all my life alone in a room. I'd like to find a new light for paintings that we haven't yet seen.
I was looking up this one because I was unfamiliar with the term At Eternity's Gate. I wondered why he picked that title, and it's Van Gogh painting, I guess originally titled Sorrowing Old Man, which is not a good title for a movie. At Eternity's Gate is far more artistic and...
Sorrowing Old Man could have been the working title for A Man Called Ove.
It could have been, a very good one. Julian Schnabel is a really fascinating filmmaker because he... didn't start off just being a filmmaker. He's an artist. He's a painter himself. And I didn't know this off the top of my head. Thank you, Wikipedia. His chosen genre is neo-expressionist painting.
Well, there you go.
Which was a reaction to minimalism from the 70s and whatnot. So this one, he started off his film career with Basquiat back in 96. I'm going to say 96. I think that's right.
All right.
Where he worked with Willem Dafoe for the first time. So they've been, I would assume, friends for a while because they're, again, working together. Actually, Dafoe's been in a couple of his movies, be it not just Basquiat. But somebody who's doing now a biopic about the later years of one of the most famous painters of all time seems like the perfect writer, co-writer, director, and he's also the editor on this one. So this seems to be very much a passion project, and all the reviews are really... highlighting how it's a very expressionistic interpretation of the last few years of Van Gogh's life. And since we had a documentary...
Loving Vincent last year, which was very popular.
Huge hit for us. So it seems right for that crowd.
Yeah,
so there's definitely a built-in art crowd around here that should be going for this one.
And there's a lot of Oscar buzz around Willem Dafoe's performance for this. I'd expect him, if he does get an Oscar nomination for this, it's probably going to be for this film and not for his role in Aquaman.
Probably not.
He's also in Aquaman, which I love whenever you get a performer that's in like the big tentpole superhero movie, but also the quiet little art house movie. So I appreciate that he's spreading his talents around.
Absolutely. So every episode we do our Cedarly 3 picks. We take inspiration from one of the new films opening on the art house scene, and we pick 3 films that listeners should be watching to expand their cinematic world. We are right now in our kind of year-end wrap-up themes, so we are taking a look at our favorite documentaries from 2018, which documentaries... in my opinion, like you have fiction films and nonfiction films, which are documentaries, but there's so many genres within documentary film as well. Biography, like subculture, sports, journalistic. So there's all these different genres within documentaries. I almost wish that they did it like Golden Globe style, where there was different types there. Which I guess we talked about the Critics' Choice Awards in documentaries. They have all the different categories. But before we start, I do want to mention, as at the top of the show, this is the year of the documentary, it seemed like, especially on the art house scene. Our number 1 movie this year in attendance was RBG by quite a bit. Our number 2 movie was Won't You Be My Neighbor? And our number 3 movie was 3 Identical Strangers. So like I don't remember that ever happening before, where it's 3 documentaries that were just out and out hits and huge word of mouth and great attendance.
Well, that's because Judi Dench hasn't made a lot of movies this year.
That's true too. Do you have any, like, why do you think docs just hit this year? Is there any...
There's been a couple of theories about, like, especially why RBG and Won't You Be My Neighbor have hit, because people in longing for sort of positive sort of role models, as there's been so much negativity in the media, in the world, and news every day in this Trumpian sort of era. The people are just looking for nice, positive role models, and that's why people were, having this nostalgia wave for Won't You Be My Neighbor and revisiting just such a kind, gentle soul.
Right.
So.
And then Three Identical Strangers, to me, felt like something that people have been watching on Netflix, like the whole like big reveal, the mystery, what's really going on, Making a Murderer or The Staircase kind of thing.
Right.
But this one you had to come to the theater to watch, and look, it works when you do that. Mm-hmm. Do you want to start off, Dave?
Sure. So my this is, I guess, in sort of order. There are a few docs that I haven't seen yet this year that could change this around when I do my final top 10 of the year. But my first favorite documentary that I saw was a film we played over at the Capitol as part of our fall doc series, and it was a film called Sufra, which is all about this woman, an immigrant in the Middle East, trying to put together a food truck. She's helping women find work she started a catering company, and then the whole movie is about them going through the bureaucracy of trying to get approval to get a food truck. And since they're immigrants, they don't have the full legal status and all this, just the bureaucracy of, I think
just
it's
trying to get a simple idea going.
I think it's Saudi Arabia is where it takes. It's either Saudi Arabia or Iran. Now I'm misremembering which one which
oppressive regime she was trying to operate under.
Well, which one she's in and which one is she's the immigrant.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to remember. But it's a very good film, and it is streaming now. I can't remember if it's on Netflix or Hulu or one of those things. But I know I saw it pop up in my
feed somewhere
there. Yeah, so it's a very good film. It's called Sufra.
So is that kind of like a biographical portrait or biographical subculture kind of?
I wouldn't say biographical.
Okay.
It's really just sort of like we're studying this
bureaucratic.
Sort of, well, it is. It's kind of and it's also about like the immigrant situation and the immigrant crisis of all these people that have this. They're in this gray area of their
what's their status? Yeah, exactly.
And trying to, and it's also very much about women in an oppressive society trying to have opportunities and income, which they don't have a lot of opportunities to have there.
I did minor ranked as well. So my number 3 is RBG, which is an accidental rhyme. There's not too much to say about it because it seems like it was such a hit, and we've mentioned it before a bunch. But I don't think this one would have been as high on my list if I didn't work at an art house theater, because seeing the reaction people had to it, bringing their kids to see it, and the amount of inspiration people drew from it was really, it was touching. Yeah, to be a little sentimental about it there. And it is a really good movie. It's a standard biographical documentary, but it's a biographical documentary about a remarkable human being. So that really does help as well. But it's also hits the right buttons for me because I could show it to my kids. Like you can't necessarily show a lot of movies that we play here to an 11-year-old and 8-year-old, but that one I definitely plan on showing to my daughter shortly. Yeah. But it is one of those that like anybody can watch and see, and it is very inspirational and really works on a perfect biographical documentary kind of genre.
Well, it is on my list as well as my number one movie. So yes, I loved RBG. Well,
sorry.
Yeah, spoiler. That's all right. But no, I loved it as well, and it did just fill my heart with joy as I was watching it. Mm-hmm.
And also, the workout routine.
Oh yeah,
that it just seemed exhausting. I was like, oh my god, I don't think I could handle that right now.
Well, and obviously she just had she has like a couple of broken ribs right now.
Yeah.
So she's a frail creature, but just such a fierce soul. So,
that's a good way to put it. I was like, doesn't seem that frail, but like the body's frail, but the mind is very powerful and very sharp.
She's a tough lady.
I hope to make it that long, and hope to be as sharp as she is mentally at that age.
Yes. And in the future. We probably, I don't know how much of ours overlap, but the next film, the final film on my list is Won't You Be My Neighbor, which would have been my number 2. RBG would be my number 1, and then Won't You Be My Neighbor would be my number 2. Again, Fred Rogers, he's iconic, and it's such a beautifully structured portrait of him, and it's just, I don't really have a negative thing to say about it because it was just such a wonderful, positive movie.
I'll say I was thinking after I saw it is sort of a warts and all documentary because they mentioned a few issues that had popped up through the show, but there's so few warts.
Doesn't really have a lot of
there's not much to do, but I knew there's a couple of the little bit of controversy-ish. I don't even controversy is even the right word there, but it was addressed, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah, makes sense.
Well, I would say that it was interesting. I did not remember his attempt at doing sort of an adult program.
Oh, I did not either. Yeah,
and how it just didn't click right. Because his whole tone is very,
it's friendly to children than it is. It seems condescending almost to adults when you're like, are we just talking? What's going on here?
So, but it was a great movie, and obviously, as the top grossing documentary of the year, is a film that everybody seemed to love.
Right. And just a heads up, it should be next year, I think, the Tom Hanks, Fred Rogers fictional version of Fred Rogers is coming out, which I'm sure will be
they're filming
an even bigger hit. So
they might have already wrapped photography. They were filming it in Pittsburgh like a month ago.
That's what you should do then.
Yep.
There. My number 2 movie is Free Solo, which, again, I just kind of mentioned briefly because we've talked about that over and over again on the show here. But this one, it worked for me just because it touched on so many different subgenres within the documentary form. It has biography. It has the subculture of climbing. There's a relationship drama in the middle of it. It's a little journalistic in that they're covering this event that, but it's also technically a sports documentary because he's doing a feat that no one else has ever accomplished before and successfully accomplishes it. And then still somehow it's dramatic, and my palms are a little clammy just thinking about some of the scenes in it because as you're watching it, I know for a fact he made it, and you're still like, oh my God, like it's literally the edge of your seat.
It's a suspense thriller.
It puts together so many genres so perfectly. In that.
And weirdly, I still haven't seen it, so I will be, but I am actually seeing it this week.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
My top one then is one that I didn't get too much love, I guess this year. I saw it done at the Cleveland International Film Festival this past spring called Minding the Gap. Filmmaker Bing Liu made that is kind of a biographical sketch of these friends of his that were kind of his put together skateboard family as they were growing up. So he's been filming them for a while and he knows them very well. So then he really started documenting them for the documentary when they kind of hit that 18-ish, like you have to get on your own, like find a job, become a grown-up sort of stage and how they transition. But it also deals with a lot of, it's a very small town. I want to say in Illinois somewhere. I think it's Rockport. That there's not a lot of future there, like the high unemployment rate, like crime is pretty rough there too. And so it deals with all of them have got some sort of a domestic violence issue in their background that's either kind of haunting them or is a current problem. And it really does. They allowed their friend to just film everything. And it's a really beautiful portrait of like what you can cobble together as a family if your own biological family isn't that helpful and rewarding. But it's also got some of the best skateboard cinematography since The Land. A local shout out there to Stephen Cable and his film from a couple years back. But it's one of those that, again, it's a hard sell like Border, where if you tell too much of the story to someone, well, then you got the whole thing, and you don't get some of the reveals that come about through the natural course of filming and interviewing and going through this archival footage that he's collected over the years from it. So, I would definitely recommend finding that. I think it's streaming in a few places now, but Minding the Gap is
I will check it
definitely
out.
One of the best documentary I saw this year. Well, those are our picks for top documentaries of 2018. If you have one that we missed out on that you'd like to give a shout out to, we're at Cedarly Theater with an RE at the end using the hashtag Cedarly3, the number 3. A few more special events going on this week. We have the continuing Cleveland Museum of Natural History Real Science series. This week's movie is Walking with Dinosaurs in 3D, Saturday, December 8th at 11 a.m.
And we have our continuing Melt Bar and Grilled Late Shift film series with our monthly showings of The Room. That is going to be on Saturday, December 8th at 10 o'clock. And if you're a fan of The Room, we've got another event coming up over at our sister theater, The Capitol, on Sunday, December 16th. We're going to be showing Best Friends with Greg Sestero, a.k.a. Mark from The Room. He's going to be there in person to do a Q&A after the film.
The Bolshoi Ballet series continues with La Sylphide on Sunday, December 9th at 11 a.m.
And on December 11th at 7 o'clock, we have a special screening of a documentary called Hot to Trot about same-sex competitive ballroom dance, and that is going to be showing here for one night only with the filmmaker in attendance, Gail Friedman.
On next week's episode, we'll be discussing the Golden Globe nominations. Yorgos Lanthimos' The Favorite, that is a tongue twister. Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, and Brady Corbet's Vox Lux. Our Cedarly 3 picks for next week will be best performances by an actress in 2018, so feel free to send any recommendations our way. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.